malaria is a very big health issue in India, and malnutrition or hunger. So while a lot of research might be on issues that are not malaria or hunger. So if supposing you all work on issues that that help the health of developing nations, Africa, India, then that's an area that would a breakthrough in that would actually benefit a lot of people.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravi. So moving on to the next topic. This is for Savan. Savan, so for the current Prime Minister of India, securing India's energy needs over the next decade ranks among his greatest challenges. So now in terms of the biggest energy consumers in the world, China, US and Russia are the top three, with India in the fourth spot. Now for all these countries, energy security is going to be a constant goal. Now according to you, where do you think we can search for new resources, new technology, and are there any investment opportunities for NRIs?
Thank you, Praveen. So we are the fourth largest consumer on this planet, our country. And before even I tell, I'm just going to give you a few statistics why we have to. This is a straight thing I want to discuss with the people of my generation, like the people who are sitting, most of the people in the room. So, hello. Yeah, so I think people of my age or younger generation to me should have to think this. This is a very critical problem. Because if you don't have electricity, why we enjoy all this here, why our lives are so nice here is because we have 24 hours electricity here. If there is no electricity, you will have emotional stress and you can't do actually anything in the modern economy. So that is the main difference between here and in India. And this is one topic we were debating whether we need to put this in this panel discussion or not, energy in the form of electricity. So I'm going to give few statistics why people of my generation have to think for the future of energy. So the electricity we are producing right now, 58% of the current is produced through coal. 18% is from hydroelectricity, 9% is from natural gas, 1% is from diesel, and 2% is from nuclear, 12% is from renewable energy. So except for the renewable energy and a little of nuclear, all are gonna go within next 60 years. Yeah. So the coal reserves in India are will gonna come until only 80 years more. After that, there is no coal in India. We can't produce any coal. For hydroelectricity, it depends on how our rivers are. We can't say that. It depends on droughts and everything. Our gas reserves in India will come only for next 20 years. If the rate of consumption is based on the current consumption rates. Our diesel, that means petroleum, the reserves we have will only come for next 30 years. And the nuclear energy was a big thing in 1950s and 60s in India, but the problem we have is we don't have source of uranium right now. We have thorium in India, but that has low efficiency. And we have to import from Australia and other, but it's very difficult right now. So probably in next 40, 50 years, we will be done with our reserves in India. You cannot generate electricity. So this is a very critical issue for my generation, people of my people who are younger to me and of my age. So the best option we have in India right now is renewable energies. We are not as going as fast as other countries because other countries have moved very fast into renewable energy, especially Germany in solar energy. Okay. There are some more statistics I'm going to give. 40% of India right now today has no electricity because most of it is rural villages because they are not actually connected to grid. And the grid system in India is very poor. It's very old. It doesn't work properly. It's not modernized well. And by 2030, which is hardly 20 years from now, we need double the energy which we are using right now. And with the reserves we have and the sources we have, we cannot meet or match the requirement we have by 2030, which is only 20 years from now. And these statistics are based on the consumption rate of today. And obviously the population is gonna build, and obviously we need a lot of energy to keep it going on. And if you don't have electricity, as I said, there is no education, there is no health, you can't run hospitals, you can't do any work in this modern economy. So my suggestion or my view is we have to look into options into renewable energies, because they're not going to give any carbon dioxide outputs or anything like that. So every country has its own geographical problem. Based on the country's geographical issue, we usually we can only work on few renewable energies. Based on India's geographical position, we have solar energy, wind energy, and biomass. I would say biomass. Because in India, 300 days of every year are solar days. Like you have full energy. Germany has only, I think, 117 days of solar energy, solar days. So we have our solar energy is above average of all the countries in the world. We have potential. We are just leaving. We are always focusing on the fossil fuels, and.
Someone, can you?
Yeah, just finalize on this. So these are the problems we have. We are gonna face this. So what NRIs can do is two ways we can help. Sitting in Morgantown or giving some time or some money. One is investment, in the financial investment, and other is technological help. In the financial investment, what we can do is just go to Google and search like some NGOs who are working. I've been looking for this past 2-3 days. That I was surprised that many NGOs are actually working and transforming the villages at a very small level. The great problem what we can do is we can create small microgrids per village, or 2-3 villages we can connect, and we can produce a 30 kilowatt hour plants, which is very small and usually takes like 30 lakhs or 40 lakhs, and keep the village sustaining for next 30 years. So this is what we can do in investment. And in technological way, we can guide the latest development and help them to establish smart grids, solar plants, and especially biogas plants we can help.
Sure. So thank you very much, Savan. So I think that was very good information. One closing statement for this topic is that very often in Copenhagen, there are some energy summit meetings. And there was an agreement signed by some major countries to keep the temperature from increasing more than 2 degrees centigrade. So they don't want the temperature to increase more than 2 degrees centigrade. And so far, we have already increased the temperature by 0.8 degrees centigrade. So I just wanted to say, think about the importance of global warming. So we have to move on to the next topic just to make sure that we stay on time. This question is for Satish, so that's the reason why I had to stop you earlier. Now, this question is regarding a documentary, India's Daughter, and I'm sure some of you have seen it. Now, this document was part of BBC series. It was based on 2012 gang rape in India. Now, as you know, this movie was banned in India, and there was a big hue and cry in social media. Like some people who support the ban, they say that it is this kind of movies are showing India in a bad light. So they try to compare the statistics with other countries, say we are better than other countries, so why should we not ban it? Now there are people who oppose the ban who say this is the reality, and if you show the truth, you can raise awareness. So that's the argument from people who oppose the ban. So I think the bottom line is this is more about how you perceive things. Now, problems revolve around how you perceive things. Now, how do you think we have to deal with such a kind of situation? So your response doesn't have to be specific to India's Daughter movie, but anything in general. So perception is plays a major role. So how do you think we have to deal with these kind of situations?
So talking in a more general sense, any change in the society starts with a thought. It might be a good one or a bad one because of a person's mindset. He might be Hitler, or I can take the example of Nelson Mandela. So it depends on the mindset and attitude when we narrow down to whatever change that is being brought about. Say you have given the example of India's Daughter. That's one of the unfortunate incidents that happened. So if anyone points out a problem, nowadays what people try to do is they try to defend the problem rather than correcting it. what they say they say there's a rape in India, they would say, okay, India is really great. I agree, it's great, but what they say is, Britain's rape rate is higher than us. Why would you point it out to us? Or say if there's some unemployment rate. Nigeria is more unemployed people than us. See, we're trying to escape the situation rather than
Facing the
trying to
reality.
show the
Yes.
pride in fixing the problem. That's one thing. And the other aspect is the mindset. People try to behave as hypocrites. You see, people in India and also people outside India, I should refer even to the NRIs. They say, laws need to be fixed, and there's a lot of corruption and all. Take the example for some NRIs. The first thing they do after entering India, most of them don't pay customs. They try to bribe the official. So if you can follow the law here, you can follow the law there. So we have to be, an outstanding example to the people, because Newton's second law says everybody continues to be in a state of rest until acted upon an external force. We can be that external force which can bring change in India. So the thing is, the solution to is we have too many laws already. The need is maintaining those laws. Where does the loophole come from? It comes from the judiciary, because they are not happy with the pay or something. They try to bypass people who bypass the laws. So what as NRS we can do is say approach the police departments in certain areas. You can say, okay, we can take care of the educational expenses of your families, but you got to lawfully work for the society. You don't go for bribes just because you have an issue. If we are there to take care of the education. NRS can contribute straight to police welfare funds, and they'll take care of various aspects of the judiciary. In that, the greed which comes out of a necessity is kind of eliminated, and things will be more smoother.
Thank you, Satish. So I just want to give an opportunity to the audience and then come back to the panel. Does anyone want to say anything regarding how both of you raised the hand at the same time? So.
I'm not an apologist, and people. There are a lot of people who actually oppose the ban, and somebody actually spoke for the ban as well. But somebody like rightly in the last time we met for Independence Day, somebody said perception is reality. That's actually true. But the portrayal of India, like I've seen the documentary. There was nothing wrong in it. But the people who made the documentary, they made it sound like India is only a rapist country or something like that. So when I said perception is reality, I met a few girls here, like Americans. The questions that I get are like these two questions. I'm not making them up. The first question is one girl, she wanted to travel in India, and she said, but in India, like all the women get raped. I mean, that was a normal question. That was, I'm not even changing the question. And they apparently saw the documentary and read a few articles, something like that. I'm not saying there's no problem, but there's also rapes in US. There's also rapes in Britain. Like there were rapes going on in Morgantown behind the house. There was a case like probably 1 month back, and but they don't see US and Britain as whenever they talk about US, they don't think okay, it's land of rapists or something like that. But the way in which India is being portrayed right now is that only rapes happen in India, and it's unsafe for the tourists. There's certain things. I mean, if I'm going to some new country, I'll obviously be careful, because I don't know the people over there. Those are some things that everybody should, be aware of. Just because, but the perception is that just because if a foreigner visits India, they get raped. I mean, especially it's a woman. And like even I got many silly questions. Like I've got really weird questions saying that I read about the rape cases in India. Like is it true that this is I mean, I don't know if I can say this question over here, but the question I got is all Indian men horny all the time. I mean that's like the most ridiculous thing. I mean, and I asked her where the hell did that even come up from. She said, I actually read about the rapes that happen in India, and it's kind of unsafe to travel over there. So I'm not being an apologist, or I'm not trying to say there's no problem, but at the same time, don't portray India as only a place where rapes happen.
So you're saying that, I mean, it's okay to show the movie, but portray show that in a better way. So don't you think? I mean, one of the questions to the panel is, so in that case, instead of banning the movie, don't you think there is some other solution? So maybe the government probably should have discussed with the makers of the movie and then maybe made some modifications. Go ahead, someone wants to.
Yeah, I think any movie, right, it's based, they have freedom to express whatever, the people who made the movie wanted to express, right? So movie is after all an expression of somebody's thoughts or a group's thoughts. So it has to be taken as such, and obviously we should not censor whatever, whatever artists and whatever, whatever movies are portraying. Those should not be censored. Having said that, I think like the impact of these things, it doesn't happen continuously. Like it's almost like quantum jumps, right? So a movie might give a jump in a direction, right? The movie doesn't itself have to kind of average out if it wants to give a jump in a direction. There are other things which are giving jumps in the exact opposite direction, right? Like you can see Fair and Lovely ads, for example.
Yeah.
It's complete nonsense, right? Like portraying fairness, and there's no apology about those. So there are things that are giving jumps even in the opposite direction. So yes, and no movie or anything reaches all the population all the time. So it's one dose the movie has given. I think it's fine, and people should be able to. I mean, it's like bravo that somebody did that.
I just
Here-
want a quick
Just
comment on that. I mean,
quick comment on
here
that.
you
Naga
have-
wanted to say
It's just
something.
not India's daughter. It's just cited as an example. But the more general, I mean, the main aspect is when an issue is raised or a problem is pointed out, we tend to be more defendant rather than respondent.
But
So
the movie was made after.
It's just an example.
There was a really big moment in India. Movement in India. You see, like millions of people came out on the street in Delhi, and they actually fought for this before the movie even came out. So, but the movie actually never covered that portion. And you have the makers of the movie. I mean, they were speaking in LA before the premiere, and like I think it was a director or producer. What can you say? India is such a sick society or whatever. I mean, I don't subscribe to that. I mean, just because you made a movie and showed something wrong happening in a society, you don't stand in a moral high ground to judge the whole. There she was, the makers of the movie, they were discrediting a whole generation of youngsters that actually came out on the street and fought for the laws to be changed and everything. So,
Naga,
That kind
closing.
of discussion now, of course, everybody expressing that is beyond, our kind of, meeting here.
Sure.
That's a very broad type of discussion. You can look at it, there are Americans in India, they make, I know a couple of families who did not want to bring up the children here. They did not want, I don't want my children to grow up and they send to India. So they're always, that doesn't mean we are all like that too either. I know what you're saying, but this is beyond our scope of phenomenon discussion even.
Sure.
I want to add something to this. Here.
So, good.
So, good comment. So, we have been until now we have been hearing about a lot of issues in a lot of directions like energy, healthcare, etc. So, what I feel is that based on demographics of India, like there are so many, it's a huge land population. So, we need to do something like a quantitative mapping of each vertical. Like, if you take, for example, energy or healthcare, map completely the strength, the opportunity, the weakness, and threat of each demographic location, and then identify all of them in quantitative, and in that way you can prioritize what are your targets, and then classify them according to your priorities. It will not only add as an appendix to the government policies, I think it will not only be a statistic, but it will also be exciting to people like NRIs who are willing to contribute to India. So they can choose a particular location and they can choose if you want to make the strengths better, I mean, if they want to convert the opportunities of that area into strength, or they want to focus, invest more on removing the threat or eliminating threat. So that it will give a quantitative approach to addressing problems, and also it can also focus on prioritizing things based on rather than qualitatively discussing.
Thank you, Vishnu. So I just want to close this topic here. So Naga, the next question goes to you. So that's the reason why I didn't give an option to you. So now, before I ask this question, I just want to be careful. We are not really making judgments about any person in specific in India. We're not going to talk about any political party or anything. I just want to bring up a recent example, what happened in Delhi. Now, I personally feel that this is like really, really important for the country. Now, as many of you are probably aware, in recent elections, twice in Delhi, the person who, instead of the traditional way of distributing money and liquor, there were people who went to the public, they said they talked about the failures of the previous governments, and these particular people, they raised money through NRIs and also through people living in India, and then they came to power. And most of you know that how they won the elections. I mean, I'm just trying to be vague because I don't want to look like I'm biased towards any party. So, Srinivas, I'm sure you understood my question. So, in terms of the future of India, now, do you think this is one-off, or do you think we could be seeing more of this?
In terms of the political movement here?
Well, political movement in the sense, again, I think my question is, instead of the traditional way of distributing money and liquor, I think we want people to make better judgments about who to elect as their leader. So the traditional way, as you know, in most of the cases, you go distribute money and liquor, and that's how you gain votes. But instead of doing that, do you think we can approach people, talk about the strategy, talk about what they really can do? Do you think honest politicians and honest governance is possible?
Well, that's
Can we replicate Delhi in some other states?
I mean, that's definitely the need of the hour. I think India, I mean, all the changes that we wish to see in India will only happen with good governance, with people becoming more honest. I mean, they have to, like, you have to bring in an honest political discourse into the mainstream. And I know we know, I mean, we can take names here. Arvind Kejriwal and Aam Aadmi Party have shown that platform. I mean, they have tried it. There are other folks who have tried it in the past, but Aam Aadmi Party has some success because they have done it over the years, and they have built a strong perception for the people because of their involvement in the right to information movement and the India Against Corruption movement. So they built on that. And having been part, I mean, I volunteered in the elections for 4 months. I've seen going door to door speaking. People are ready to discuss, but do they actually do it in practice? I mean, we have seen literally political parties distribute money and liquor and putting it even at the doorstep. We have seen it. We have documented that evidence and even submitted to the Election Commission, but no action was taken. But as you said, I think people have to realize that, and slowly. And there are great examples. In fact, recently one of our partners related this story, and this is how small changes can actually come forward. So there was a tribal, a poor lady who had a small piece of land, but because of some reorganization in the municipal office, that patta was lost and she was not able to get it back, and so she was being discredited from the land. So she comes back and asks our partner that, could you please help me? So he says, why, what's your problem? He says that they are asking me a bribe of 25,000 rupees and I don't have that. Could you help me get this patta? So he says, no, go pay the bribe. He looked at him back surprisingly and shockingly, says, why are you saying so? He said, remember, how much did you get in the last election? She says, well, everybody was giving, so I took it. So exactly, since you took it, now you have to pay back. The guy who was asking you for this bribe, he himself had paid the bribe to get there, and his top official had to pay the bribe to the local MLA or MP to get that position, and that guy is paying to the party. So in the process, you were happy that on election day you were treated like a queen and you got all this money and you were being given a chauffeur right to go and vote. But since you took it, this is going to happen. So Mary actually went back silently, and they noticed that in the next following election, she actually walked 3 kilometers. She did not take any money, and she voted. And so if that sort of connections can be made, and I think we have to connect people to their problem and see how this can be solved. And I know that she was first of all feeling that 1% not taking money and voting, would that really help? But that's a start. And since she realized it, and they are trying that, and there are several organizations like ADR, the Association for Democratic Reforms and all, National Election Watch, all of these people have been trying their best. So we all, if we can convince our families to make that conscious effort to actually go for the strategy. Like a lot of us, you would say, I have seen during the election that people vote along caste lines. Or he's from our family, or he's from our community. Irrespective of how ruthless the person is, or how bad that person's personal record has been, social record has been, I think we as people can definitely influence. Try convincing your family members, your villages, your communities that please vote with India and its future in mind, with the future of your own family children in mind, that what sort of a better India do you want. And unless people realize that and not walk away and vote more consciously, and they have to be taken part. I mean, to credit of Delhi's government, they have taken people into confidence, they have gone into the mohallas, have discussed their problems and made manifestos out of it. That's the reason why they came into power. Even today, I mean, yes, there is a lot of media thing going on, and people may discredit some of the efforts going on. But when you talk to common people in Delhi, they still feel that he will again come back to the thumping majority. Even today, after I think close to 6-7 months, there's still a lot to be seen in the next 4 years. But definitely this is the need of the hour where people have to be more engaged and more conscious in voting.
Thank you very much, Naga, and I definitely agree with you. I think if there is one single problem we have to resolve, my personal feeling is that it's the corruption. So, and I just want to give opportunity to two panel members, Dr. Neeti and Dr. Vinod. If you want to add anything to what Naga said, or if you want to, sorry, go ahead, please.
Okay, the voting problem is there in every country. Okay, in this country also, what they call as a low information voters. People don't pay attention to the issues. They vote based on some peripheral issues. And as he pointed out, in India, the biggest problem is people vote based on the past rather than the policies or whatever they're proposing. So, but that's going to have, there has to be a sea change. It's not going to happen overnight. It has to change gradually, and somebody like Gandhi has to come and lead this issue. You have the right, and when you want to exercise that, think about it. You have to look at the goodness of the country, not whether this person belongs to your community or your caste or your religion, whatever, right? But that's going to take a long time for that to change.
But I think, if you consider the percentage, like one state out of 29 states we have, I think that's, if you consider that percentage, it's a significant improvement. So if you can replicate at least in 1 or 2 more states, I think, again, I'm not talking, please don't misunderstand me, I'm not talking about party specific. All I'm trying to talk about is changing the attitudes of people. How do we make them make better judgments? Anyone from audience want to say anything about this one? Or any other panel member?
One thing is how we can, people who have settled in this, how can we, it's a question to panel members also, how we can bring a change.
Sure.
People have said that we have to change it.
Sure.
So how we can.
Now you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, see, there are initiatives of also trying to recognize the NRI community with Indian passports to be being eligible to vote. I mean, if everywhere else you can have mail-in ballots and electronic ballots, that provision can be made. If now actually the Indian government is accepting the right to information, we can file RTI applications with Indian embassies here. So they might as well add this service of also giving the right to vote to NRIs wherever they are. And they can send in their email vote or vote electronically, logging onto online or something. That needs to be done. I think there are some initiatives, some folks are trying to do that. But as I said, I think the biggest contribution is if we all can ensure that in the next 5 years before the next election, if we all can take a pledge to at least get 10 people in India to vote without taking any of those bribes and rather focus on the manifesto, focus on the problem that needs to be resolved, I think if we can get 10 people, each one of us contribute to that, getting 10 people each to vote more consciously, I think it would definitely lead to a better change.
And some of the programs are really good. Let's say if you like some specific person in India, some of the programs you can do on the computer. It gives you automatic phone numbers. You
Yeah.
can call those people, send a message to them, and then you can get the statistics too. That's how good these
See,
things are.
all our MLAs and MPs have development funds, and does anybody even keep